With the GK68X that launched about a month ago, I had a feeling we'd see a GK64X and a 61X, and that was actually the case. So today we're taking a look at the barebone GK64XS, the version that supports Bluetooth. I'll add switches and keycaps and see if this keyboard is worth considering or not. The keyboard comes in the typical Skylong box. There's a small manual with the key combos, then the keyboard itself in plastic wrap. There's also a braided USB-C cable, the split spacebar plate with pre-installed stabilizers, a keycaps puller, and a switch puller. For the switches, I decided to go with cherry blacks. Never tried these and wanted to see what they were like. And for the keycaps, I have these Domikey SA keycaps. They're ABS with double shot legends, and there's a total of 159 keys, which match both the regular layout this GK64XS has, but also the split spacebar layout that you can have with it almost perfectly. So I went ahead to install these, but first I wanted to see what kind of PCB and battery were hiding behind the plate. To do so, I removed the black screws, as the silver ones are used to hold the PCB and plate together, and I also did the screws for the split spacebar. The PCB features a removable connector for the battery, so it could be upgraded later. The pre-installed battery has a 1900 mAh capacity, which is standard for keyboards like these, and the hot swap switch sockets are from Gateron. There are LEDs behind every switch, but also 3 under the PCB on each side, although they serve no purpose with the current case. The PCB also has standard mounting holes for GH60 cases, which is very nice. The spacebar section has additional switch sockets to support the regular spacebar layout and the split spacebar layout. All the stabilizers are plate mounted, and that's why there aren't a bunch of holes to support the different stabs configurations. So now to actually the switch installation, it's pretty straightforward. These cherry switches are 3-pin only, meaning they don't have the 2 extra plastic pins, although this PCB would support them. Then to the keycaps, this large Domikey keycap set has over 50 extra keycaps, with all the right width keys to accommodate this layout. The most uncommon key is the 1 unit wide right shift key, which also takes some time to get used to as a typist. The left shift key is also 2 units wide instead of 2.25, another thing to look for, and you'll generally need a keycap set with multiple unconventional keys to make this layout work. Looking at the physical specs of this keyboard, it's an upgrade on pretty much all aspects compared to previous GK keyboards. The case is thicker and the material feels higher quality. It has almost no flex, likely due to that thicker case and internal structure. It has 4 rubber feet under with no angle adjustment whatsoever, and then there's a USB-C port at the back. The keyboard with the keycaps and switches weighs in at around 1.5 pounds or 670 grams. Overall, not too heavy for a plastic case, while not feeling cheap either. Looking at the layout, it's very unconventional. They managed to fit dedicated arrow keys in a 60% format, so there are compromises. It tries to be as close as possible to an NC layout, but the left shift key is 0.25 units narrower than standard, so the bottom alpha row is slightly shifted compared to normal. Then the bottom right modifiers are 1 unit wide with 2 of them missing, and finally the right shift key is 1 unit wide instead of 2.75. Next to the up key, there's another key there that could be mapped to a navigation key like home or delete as an example. Depending on the key, there might be row profile inconsistencies, so I added this code key. As for the keycaps, I really like these. They're really similar to Max Keys keycaps. I would bet they're made in the same factory, as the font, profile, material, and double shot process quality are very similar. They are ABS, so the colors pop nicely and should still last a while as they are double shot. They're fairly thick as well and will help produce a lower pitch sound, which is typical for SA profile keycaps. Overall, I'm really liking this keycap set and the theme they went for. I also like that it comes with pretty much all the weird size keys you'll need for most keyboards. Now to the switches, I have to say that I really don't like these cherry blacks. They're slightly too heavy for my likings. Even for gaming, they cause fatigue in my fingers, and it took a while to get used to make sure I fully press them down. To me, they feel mushy and don't sound particularly great as they have a lot of spring ping. So yeah, I don't know what I should have expected, but I can't really recommend them personally. As for the stabilizers, they are factory lubed, although not everywhere they should be, and the application is not super consistent. The spacebar does have a bit of rattle, but for other narrower stabilized keys, it's not too bad. Like the GK68X, this keyboard comes with an optional split spacebar plate. This plate has two pre-installed stabilizers, although they are not lubed at all this time. The Domikey Keycap set comes with the necessary keys for the split spacebar layout, but in most cases, it would be even harder to find a set that accommodates it. You would need a 2.75, a 2.25, and a 1.25 unit keycap for it to work, blank preferably, and with the bottom rose profile too. It works exactly like the GK68X, where you can remap all three keys to whatever you like. One popular option seems to be to remap one of the keys to backspace and another for a temporary layer switch. All in all, it's cool, but not something I would use as a daily driver personally. In the name GK64XS, here with the S, it means that it also supports Bluetooth connectivity. You can switch between the Bluetooth and wired connection with function plus space, and then pairing will be done by holding down function and Z, X, or C, effectively associating the device to one of the three presets. I have not tested this keyboard over Bluetooth extensively, but when I did with my MacBook, I was able to perceive a bit of lag at times, but again, this laptop is known for its unreliable Bluetooth, so maybe it's not too bad with a decent Bluetooth chip. The battery life should last for a few days with LEDs off, given that it's a 900 mAh battery, and it features Bluetooth 5.1. In terms of lighting, since I installed opaque switches and non-translucent keycaps, we're not seeing any of it, but it's what you would typically get with GK keyboards, where you have a bunch of animations on board, but you need to use the software for full control. Speaking of the software, you can indeed change the animations. It's the same GK6X Plus software we've seen with all GK keyboards, and as always, it's a love and hate thing. There's a bunch of preset animations, and you can build your own as well by starting from scratch, but it's not super intuitive, so I guess most people will default to one of the existing animations. You can also remap all keys and all layers, apart from the function key, which is at the right of the spacebar. This is a bummer for me personally, as I usually have the Alt key there, and I rely a lot on it as I use a non-English keyboard language on an NC layout. There is a total of 4 layers accessible through function plus Q, W, E, and R. Q is the driver layer, where the changes are stored on the computer, while the others are stored on board. You can remap to pretty much any key from alphanumerical keys to multimedia controls, mouse clicks, OS functions, and temporary layer switch. All in all, you can pretty much do anything with this software, apart from remapping that function key. So, in conclusion, this is a great improvement over the previous GK64, the overall quality is better, and you get that optional split spacebar layout, and it should be 100% compatible with GH60-like cases. Overall, I think this is a great keyboard. The only thing that would prevent me from recommending it is the layout, which will make things harder both in terms of adjusting to it, especially that narrow right shift, but also to find keycaps that fit. The other thing that I don't like about it is that the right Alt key doesn't have its standard location and is swapped with the function key instead. Other than that, it's solid. These Domikey keycaps are really nice too, and although I wouldn't recommend the cherry black switches personally. So that wraps it up for today. As always, I'll have affiliate links to this barebone keyboard down below, as well as the switches if you're really into these cherry blacks, and the keycaps I used to complete this keyboard. So thank you for watching, make sure to leave a like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, as I'll see you in the next video.